The Oklahoma City Thunder get a big win over the Suns. SGA goes for 50 points again. The Thunder make another move. What to look forward to at the NBA trade deadline, all coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the Oklahoma City Thunder just demolishing the Phoenix Suns. SGA scores 50 points again, and the NBA trade deadline, which might even be over with all the big moves that have already happened. The Thunder made a deal as well. We're going to get into all of that on today's Locked On Thunder, brought to you by FanDuel, because Super Bowl 59 is here. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet $5, and when you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or go to FanDuel.com to get started. So the Thunder came into this game without, of course, Chet, Holmgren, AJ Mitchell, Topic, and no Cason Wallace. However, J-Dub did return. The Thunder started out shaky in this one. They were trailing at halftime. They got down by as many as 12, 11 lead changes along the way, 4 ties. But the Thunder eventually rolled to a 38-point lead at one point and win over Phoenix on national TV, 140-109. None of it possible without SGA. His complete second quarter takeover lessened the margin at intermission. In the third quarter, this team picked up where they left off in terms of Shai's buckets, but did buckle down defensively and displayed that historic defense that you've come to expect from this Thunder team. They waned a bit in the first half defensively, being generous, and in the second half, they tightened the screws and suffocated the life out of the Phoenix Suns. And I just think to myself, like, if these avalanches that come for the Thunder, and these are the avalanches we've talked about since November on this show, if these avalanches were offensive, nobody would doubt for a single second, that the Thunder are the Western Conference favorites, that the Thunder are in line to win an NBA championship. But because their avalanches stem from its defense that truly squeezes the life out of opponents, there are still question marks for some hovering around this team. I think that you just have to look at this team as a historically great defense that does more than enough offensively to win them games. You look at their net rating, it's 13. Like, their net rating is among the best in NBA history. It's stuff we have not seen before since the 1996 Chicago Bulls. And kids, they were a really good squad, right? Like, they were awesome. And so, like, I just really think that you should look at that third quarter and then envision what you felt like when you saw the Warriors go on runs like that. And they were doing it louder because it was Clay, it was Steph, it was KD, it was these threes after threes after threes. You know, the Warriors did it louder, but the Thunder are still doing it. It's just in ways that are tougher for most to pick up on. I mean, like, the Suns made one field goal for the entire quarter. The entire third quarter, the Suns made one field goal. Like, that is just stuff you never see. And so they do deserve a lot of credit for that. And by the way, they put up these historic numbers defensively without their best defender in Chet Holmgren and without Cason Wallace, who is at worst their fourth best defender. 2 top 5 defenders for a historically great defense were out tonight, and that was the third quarter product. And look, they know that the second quarter was not good enough. They know that this first half was not good enough. Jalen Williams just bluntly said that they sucked in the first half defensively. And they did. And that's the difference, right? Like, that's where if you follow the analogy of, like, the second quarter looked messy because they were not disciplined defensively. Because this team at its apex, the way it's designed, it is built to be perfect defensively and allows you to be passable offensively when Shai's off the floor. But when that defense takes a step back with Shai off the floor, then it compounds the problem. Then you're down double digits. Then it starts to snowball. And then it goes the other way, right? Like whenever you do tighten the screws defensively, there's nobody who can beat you. And it's like with the Warriors, like whenever in the first half, if they were missing shots or they weren't taking quality looks, yeah, like they got down double figures, but there was never that sense of doubt. There was never that sense of like, oh no, what's going to happen? Because you knew that inevitably they'd right the ship. Inevitably, there'd be a sequence of like 3 Steph threes, a Clay 3, a KD dunk, and it's like, okay, well now they're back in control, and away you go. And it's the same way in Oklahoma City in terms of the outcome. It just comes on the different side of the floor. But tonight, like every night, for the most part, is centered around SGA, who scores 50 points in this game on 62% shooting from the floor. And what's crazy is Shai's not being hyperbolic. I tweeted it out in the moment. After the first quarter, he had 13 points. And it felt like he could have had more because he was missing these shots that we see him hit nightly. A couple bounces on the rim go differently. Shai has an even bigger first quarter. And to make 62% of your shots en route to 50 points is historic stuff. It's all-time great stuff. He was a plus 42 in this contest. 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and a block. 11 for 12 at the free throw line, 3 for 7 from the three-point line. And his Heisman moment, his MVP moment, was the bucket to get 50. Where he's tight roping down the sidelines, snaking through traffic, launching a baseline jumper, falling out of bounds at an impossible angle that he makes look routine. Shai is an all-time great scorer, and you don't need the caveats. You don't need to play coy. You don't need to see it, because this is all repeatable stuff. This is all stuff that will age gracefully, and in a matter of years, he will have the accolades. You can get on the action now. He's an all-time great scorer. We've never seen stuff like this. We've never seen a guard have this efficiency on this output. 3 straight Wednesday nights where Shai goes for 50 after not scoring 50 to that third Wednesday to that point in his career. Like, this is the first year he's had a 50-point game. He's routed off 3 straight on Wednesdays. So perhaps the Thunder should be petitioning to get that Sunday first round game 1. That way they get the 2 days off, Monday, Tuesday, and then play again on Wednesday. But man, what a game from SGA. And it goes back to what we've talked about with the MVP stuff. Not only is Shai himself putting together a sizzle reel that is worth MVP stature, right? And not only are his stats and leading the league in points worth MVP stature, but then you go look at team success. The Thunder have won 40 games and lost 9. The Phil Jackson coined, theory is that true NBA title contenders, they win 40 games before they lose 20. Well, the Thunder won 40 games before they lost 10. Before they lost 10. And half the teams that have done that have won an NBA championship. Basically a coin flip of that note. But still, they're in the echelon of NBA title contention with the 40 before 20 stuff. And they've done it in a way that I think is being underrated. And I'll tell you why. I think that for the national audience, right? For the national voters out there for the MVP award, you expected the Thunder to be the first seed. You expected the Thunder to be the first in the West and to be the West favorites. You expected the Thunder to take this step and to head into the postseason with a team capable of winning a championship. All that is true. But while it was expected, it's also impressive. Because it's not like they're just living up to the standard. They're living up to the standard by defying the odds, by battling adversity. Whenever Chet Holmgren was splattered on the floor on November 10th, nobody would have bet dollar to donuts that the Thunder would be 40-9. They've missed Isaiah Hartenstein for massive stretches. Caruso's been in and out of the lineup. Kaysen's out now. AJ Mitchell, who became a rotational rookie, out 10 to 12 weeks. J. Will Kinrich, start on the shelf. Shai's missed a game. Jacob's missed time. At every turn, they've been hit with different obstacles. At every turn, they've been hit with adversity. But their record doesn't reflect it. And that's thanks to SGA. That's because, guess what? SGA is the most valuable player. Because there is not a superstar in the sport, in my opinion, who could handle all that Shai's had to carry in terms of the injuries, in terms of the lineups, in terms of the rotation that's been available, and get them to a 40-9 mark. Because he's not just out there getting his shots. Like, his box score is loud. He leads the NBA in points. There's no doubt about that. But he's playing really good defense. And he's also getting those points as a direct cause of the system, as a direct cause of the flow of the game, and not just by being inefficient, not just by chucking up shots. I mean, this guy has the field goal percentage of a big man, only he's a lead guard. And so I just don't know how you would give the MVP to anybody else. And I think that today should have shorn up anyone on the fence about the MVP award. I'll tell you why coming up. But first, I want to say right now, but our good friends over at PrizePicks. Go check out PrizePicks today because basketball season is heating up. There's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports with over 10 million members, billions in awarded winnings. PrizePicks makes it easy and fun to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Here's how it works. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your money in cash. PrizePicks even has the free pick for big games where Patrick Mahomes only needs 1 yard on Sunday to win. Pair that with one more correct pick, and boom, you're cashing out. So you could pick more or less on Luka Doncic's assists for his Laker debut, which is trending towards Saturday. Pair that with Patrick Mahomes on Sunday, more than 1 yard, and bada bang, bada boom, you can get yourself some big money by downloading the app today. Using code LOCKEDONNBA, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. After you play, not win. You don't got to win. Just got to play. $5 to get 50. PrizePicks, run your game. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. SGA had an unreal game. He leads the NBA in 40-point nights with 8. He's had 3 50-point nights in 3 weeks. And the reason I think that the MVP race is over is because of NBA history. Never in the history of the league have we ever just issued the MVP to the best player. And perhaps we should have been, right? But we haven't. Jokic winning this one would tie LeBron James. He'd be 1 away from Michael Jordan. And when you look at Shai and how he has not only a great case, but the case to be the NBA MVP, if you give it to a player who's 8.5 games back, 9 games back of first place, 9 games worse than Shai, for averaging a triple-double, and for getting the benefit of the doubt of what we consider a worse roster than the Thunder. Although I will say, like, the roster's not that bad, right? Like, he's not dragging the Russell Westbrook MVP Thunder. He's not dragging those guys to the 4 seed. Like, let's be realistic here a little bit. Can we please stop making Jokic this Paul Bunyan-like figure that nobody's ever seen before? He's awesome and he's historic and he's great. But like, this roster is not as bad as people make it out to be to try to boost up Jokic's MVP case. But anyway, if you do believe he has an MVP case and you do vote for him, I can't malign you because there's plenty of stats to back it up. I will just say, you better vote for him next year, and you better vote from the year after that, and you better vote from the year after that, and this should just turn into the Nikola Jokic Award. And we should redo the point forward, like from this season on, we should redo how we view the MVP. It's just the best player in the league. It's not about most valuable. It's not about what we've done in the past. It's just the best player in the league. And perhaps, again, that's how it always should have been done. But this is a direct change in the league's history. Because I'd ask you, what do you expect Jokic to do next year? I'll tell you what he's going to do next year. He's going to average a triple-double. He's going to have the Nuggets in the 4 seed. And we're going to say, man, with all the CBA implications to where it makes it hard for the Nuggets to change their roster, makes it hard to get out of contracts, makes it hard to improve this team, how is Jokic getting this squad in the tough Western Conference to a top 4 seed while averaging a triple-double? Which is the exact same case as this year. So you'd be pretty hypocritical to not vote Jokic again next year. And I'm not saying that that's entirely wrong to just give MVP the best player. Haven't done it before. Haven't done it in any other sports. Like Patrick Mahomes is not rattling off NFL MVPs, but okay. Then you got to make that change. And you just quit even discussing MVP. It just becomes an irrelevant award where it's predetermined who's going to win, and that's fine. I'm not saying that Shai should win in the landslide, but there's really big eyeballs on what happens in the MVP race. Because the Vegas numbers are continuing to shift towards Shai. I'm very interested to see what the straw poll from Tim Bontemps and ESPN says at the All-Star break. Because again, I just think that if you vote for Jokic this year, and I'm not gonna sit here with pitchforks for anyone who votes for Jokic. But just know that the vote means more than just the 2025 MVP. It's a complete shift of NBA history. And perhaps that's okay. But Shai has more than a deserving MVP case. And to me, Shai should be the MVP. But we'll see if that actually happens. The Thunder got a big win over Phoenix. They were awesome. I thought that the Thunder really tightened up defensively in the second half. We've already established that. J-Dub returns from a wrist injury, and he shot 50% from the floor. He had some moments where it was like, wow, okay, that first jumper he hit, at the elbow, that was like, okay, he's back. He had some moments where it's like, I wonder if the wrist is still bothering him. He came into his post-game press conference with a club on his hand of ice on his wrist. So we just don't know. I thought that all things considered, his first game back from an injury and a lopsided game like this one, he had a really good night for the Thunder. Alex Caruso also returned from injury, and clearly he's got to shoot better than 1 for 5, and he knows that. You can tell he knows that because at a stoppage in this game, he got the ball and didn't give it back to the ref immediately. He goes and shoots a 3 and makes it, and then just kind of throws his arms up like as if to say, like, finally, I made a 3, even though it was in the stoppage during a timeout and it didn't count. Just saw one go in, right? It's like he knows he's got to shoot better. But he's giving you winning basketball. He's making winning plays. He's doing what you signed him up for by making that trade to help you win games. And he's doing that. He's injecting energy. He's injecting life into this team. He's communicating defensively to make other guys around him better. He's taking on top assignments to make other guys around him better defensively. And the 3-point shot has to come around. This is a guy who's a career 37% 3-point shooter. So even if you want to poo-poo his 40% a year ago, fine. If he gets anywhere close back to that 37% number with this defense, that is the perfect player for this Thunder roster. So we just got to see those shots go in. Have not seen it yet. 1 for 5 tonight from Caruso. 2 for 5 shooting from Isaiah Joe from 3. I thought Ousmane Dieng in 8 minutes was really impressive. The most comfortable he's looked on an NBA floor here in this stint. And we'll see, what that looks like moving forward. Wiggins gets the start. He was nice offensively, 17 points, 75% shooting. And then Jay Whale, he's seen way better days. And this was not a banner night for Jay Whale. I'll give him credit for competing all 21 minutes. I mean, there's times where this can spiral on you, right? When you're having a game as bad as Jay Whale was having, you can just let it deflate you. And I don't think he did that. He was still putting a body on guys, boxing out, getting rebounds. He had 12 of them tonight. But 4 points on 0 for 7 from 3 and 0 for 9 from the floor is just not good enough. And then defensively, it was some of the worst display defensively that we've seen from Jay Will, and that's saying a lot. I think that what I would guess it is that he is trying to change his habits. It appears from watching him. It appears from what Mark has said of like he's trying to figure out how to go between like always being the charge guy versus when to go with contest shots vertically. And there was a moment where Beal drives in and like he didn't you could literally see him get caught in between of like, okay, do I slide in for a charge? Do I try to jump? And then he had to bail out because whatever he decided then, it was too late. It would have been a foul. So he bails out and it's an easy bucket for Beal. And Mark appeared to rip him a little bit for it. I think that some of that is coming into play with his lackadaisical defense. He's also just not a great defender. I mean, it's just call a spade here. But also, I continue to put out there, like Jay Will played 21 minutes tonight, 22 minutes technically because he played 49 seconds of the 21 minutes. He played 22 minutes tonight. This team that hopes to win a championship is not going to play Jay Will 22 minutes when games matter and when they're healthy. That's just the bottom line. So you can worry and fret about the 22 Jay Will minutes. I would say don't do it. I would say why bother? It's like decaf coffee. Why bother? Because if they're in a position where they're forced to play Jay Will 22 minutes, the season's already gone off the rail anyway in the most meaningful games. And if they're healthy, where they won't be playing him 22 minutes, this is a blip on the radar in a game in which they won by 50 billion points. So there's no reason to concern yourself. I know that the best way to get engagement, the best way to create a reaction, the best way to stick out is by being negative, is by just being demonstrative. But in reality, can we just acknowledge this does not matter? Right? I mean, can we please stop being crazy for a second? It's a 9-loss team, so you have to pick something. I think that's a big reason why Flagler's been a big talking point. Like, you got to pick something from a 9-loss team to get upset about. But I'm here to tell you don't. Right? You don't. I know that that's the natural inkling. And if you do have to pick something, I can assure you, I can swear to you that the unraveling of this roster, the unraveling of this season will not be because Adam Flagler, who's ineligible to play in the postseason, and will not be because of Jay Will. Because if this team wants to win a championship, he's not going to be playing in the playoffs. And if they're healthy, he will not be playing 22 minutes. Might be a curveball, right? A junk ball pitcher, so to say, where he gets in for 10, maybe 5. But it's pretty clear cut what's going to happen. Right? It's going to be Hartenstein, it's going to be Holmgren, it's going to be Kenrich in the small ball 5. And the small ball 5 is your out pitch, right? It's your curveball. Chet's your fastball, and Isaiah is your cutter. You don't have to concern yourself with the Jay Will 22 minutes. It was bad. I'll grant you, it was bad. But for what reason would you care? And perhaps it's too harsh on Jay Will, but like that is just the reality of the situation. Coming up, though, we'll talk Daniel Theis trade. We'll talk trade deadline and what to watch for with the Thunder. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at FanDuel, folks, Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sports. Whether you're predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds, and you can feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature allows you to be involved no matter what's happening on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets in the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Go download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com today. Bet FanDuel with the official partner of Super Bowl 59. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. The Thunder made a trade this afternoon before the game against the Phoenix Suns. They traded with the New Orleans Pelicans to get Daniel Theis from the Pels. And basically what this trade boils down to, right? The trade itself sends the Thunder, Daniel Theis, and a 2021 second-round pick to the Thunder. That 2031 second-round pick is the worst of New Orleans and Orlando, it looks like, but it's from New Orleans, right? So the worst of the 2031 second round pick from New Orleans. All the Thunder give up was cash consideration. So they get a 2031 second round pick, Daniel Theis, for cash. Now the question becomes, will the Thunder buy out Daniel Theis? I lean yes that they're going to buy him out. One, because I don't know how much that Theis has left in him. But number two, because when asked about this trade, after the trade was official and he could legally talk about it, so the press release was out, Mark could have legally talked about it if he wanted to. When asked about the trade and when asked about Daniel, Mark said he'll punt the trade deadline questions until the dust settles, like until it's over, until after the deadline. And then he'll talk about the trade deadline. You can read into that if you want to. Me personally, I don't know how much it means. I will just say, like, if your plan was or is to keep Daniel Theis, like, why wouldn't you just coach speak it up and just be like, yeah, he's a great guy, excited to get him in here, see if he can help the team, whatever you want to say as your coach speak. If that is the plan. So it was a little bit odd. I wouldn't say it's a sure thing one way or the other, but like it's a bit odd that Mark didn't say anything about it. I would lean buyout, and I would lean that what happened here was there's no need to talk about the pick collection for the Thunder and really shake your fist at Sam Presti. Oh, he did it again. Look, Monday at 9 a.m., the Thunder had an open roster spot. Pretty soon, if they buy out Daniel Theis, they'll have an open roster spot, and they're +1 pick. And they had a roster spot for Daniel Theis for 24 hours max if they buy him out. It'd be like me asking you if you could give me $5 today, and tomorrow at that exact time that you give me $5, I'm going to give you 10. Could you do without the 5 to double it up? Sure. It's the same thing. You let the Pelicans dodge the tax, tuck up a roster spot for Theis, and then you get a second round pick out of the deal. And we've already had the second round pick discussion on the last pod when they traded a second rounder for a second rounder. So you can go back and listen to that if you want more in depth on the why they're getting so many second round picks. But if they do keep Theis, it's just an emergency policy. Or I totally messed that up. It's just an insurance policy in case of emergency. Because Chet's going to come back and Hartenstein is healthy right now. And that's great. And hopefully it stays that way. Knock on wood, do your lucky jig, right? Whatever dance you do to get luck in your life, or do whatever, meditate, do whatever you do to get luck. Have a necklace that you wear, lucky necklace, lucky socks, lucky hat, whatever you need for luck, do that. Like, hopefully they stay healthy. But the reality is, they've both seen injuries, right? Like Holmgren now dealing with a second fluke but massive injury. Hartenstein, has dealt with 2 injuries this season alone. So it's like there's no guarantee that they make it to June unscathed. And we just talked about J-Will. Like, if, again, hopefully it does not happen, heaven forbid, but if something did happen, you would have Theis, if you did keep him, to at least compete with J-Will for like who's the better option for this team. Again, ultimately, I would expect him to get bought out, but at the end of the day, it's a low risk, low reward. I have seen a lot of comments to me about like why they need 4 centers. And again, I think that's the 9-loss thing. Like, you're just looking for things to pick apart, right? Like 2 weeks ago when they filled the roster spot with Carlson, who everybody loved, they had 4 centers, nobody cared. Now they have 4 centers, nobody should care. 3, 4, 5 months ago, whenever the draft was, 6 months ago, I guess now, time flies. And they drafted guards. People were saying, why so many guards? So like, whatever, tell me the exact finite amount of roster spots that should be allocated to each position if you want to complain. But ultimately, this is, I think, a nothing burger. And they'll buy out Daniel Theis or whatever they're going to do with Theis. But if he does play, sure, why not? It's an interesting flyer to have on a guy. But ultimately, if I had to predict right now, I would say he's bought out and AJ Mitchell is given that roster spot. But we'll see if I'm right or wrong, and we'll cover it all here on Locked On Thunder. Now, what to watch for at the trade deadline? There's reports from the New York Post that Cam Johnson will not be dealt on Thursday. That is a massive win for the Thunder. Like, if you're wondering, okay, Durant is going to stay put, Butler's dominoes fallen, the random Luka domino fell. It kind of seems like we have a resolution. Like, the Lakers got their center. It seems like we have this resolution before the deadline where there's not much going to happen on Thursday. If you're looking for something to monitor Cam Johnson. Because if he stays in Brooklyn past the deadline, the Thunder should be doing jumping jacks and cartwheels in the street because it gives you the best of both worlds. You get to have your cake and eat it too. Like, I think that the Thunder have earned the right to stick with this team. If that's what they choose to do, they've earned the right to. This team's awesome. This team's been awesome this season. But there's also a possibility that, like, you go into the second postseason and nothing's better, right? Like Wiggins or Joe or whoever isn't a better shooter than they were a year ago. And under that pretense, you now have that data, and then you can go make the move instead of rushing to do it Thursday. And I would just tell you, like, how quickly we forget that the Thunder have already done this, because we're always in this mode of now and what have you done for me lately, and this microwave success. We're always in that mode, that go, go, go mode. Look at what Sam Presti did a year ago. If you're somebody who's right now criticizing the Thunder of why don't they go do this? Why don't they go improve this team? Why don't they go get this guy? Okay, well, last year at the deadline, you all wanted them to throw themselves at any big that had a pulse. Any guy that was 6'10 plus, you wanted Sam Presti to trade the farm for him. He didn't. He saw how the J-Will, the small ball stuff worked in the playoffs. And then he went out and signed the biggest contract in club history and got Isaiah Hartenstein, who is 10 times better than any big you could have gotten at the deadline. Any of them, including Daniel Gafford. Any of them. And not just is he better as an individual big, he is the unique glove-like fit for this system, glove-like fit for this organization. Perfect player to add in. Same thing with Josh Giddey. At the deadline last year, plenty of you were out on Josh Giddey. I don't blame you for it. And one didn't make a move and thought the postseason would ruin his trade value. And that was the consensus after the postseason, was like, wow, he was clearly a bad player in the playoffs. What are you going to do now? They went and put off a trade that nobody thought was possible and got the 1-for-1 swap for Caruso, who we just talked about making winning plays on this very podcast. So Sam's already shown you the willingness to, like, improve this team in the summertime based upon what unfolds in the playoffs and going and addressing needs. And these assets and this capital and the ability to pull off a Cam Johnson-like trade doesn't just dissipate after the postseason. They can do that in the offseason if Cam Johnson stays put. And that's who I think is the best fit for the Thunder. I've said it before. If I was Sam Presti, I'd go trade for him today. Don't think that's going to happen. Again, there's a report from the New York Post that he's staying put. So it is a win for the Thunder that he's not going somewhere else. Because if he's going somewhere else, it takes him off the table entirely. If he's staying put, then it reopens things in the summertime, whether you win a title or not. So that's what I think you should be looking for. And of course, just like when watching Big Brother and Julie Chen, Munoz is telling you to expect the unexpected. With Sam Presti, you got to expect the unexpected. So we'll see what happens. We'll be here to cover it all. But I think that that's the most important thing to watch for the Thunder storylines at the NBA trade deadline. Back tomorrow, talking more Thunder, talking more trade deadline. Until then, be good and be good to one another.